last item, GB 6-33, to authorize the administration to purchase the Reveal Elementary Math Curriculum for the Worcester Public Schools on a 6-year contract at a cost not to exceed $3.2 million. Deputy Superintendent.
Through the chair, Heather Farrington, our math specialist, has a small presentation.
Great.
In order to provide a little bit more detail about what the Reveal program offers.
Excellent.
And so I think I could give her a minute to share her screen. Through the chair, thank you for this opportunity to meet before the committee and share with you some of the components and the thought process that went through behind our recommendation for this math program. So one of the things over the last 2 years, we have been working to develop systems in the Worcester Public Schools to provide equitable and consistent learning across the district. And as a result, we did develop, or the vision of a learner was developed, the instructional frameworks were developed. Over the last couple of years, we also had the curriculum maps that were developed to help provide a more consistent layout of curriculum. And then common assessments were developed across the district for grades 3 to Algebra 2 to provide data for instructional purposes. So Envision is highly rated. It is green on Ed Reports and Curate, and it is designated as high quality instructional materials. However, our teachers were supplementing to meet the needs of the Tier 1 students in front of them. Some of the things that teachers were supplementing were more structured, multilingual supports, including the implementation of the 8 mathematical language routines. They needed opportunities and games that allowed students to practice with each other, collaborate, work with each other, and it helped gain some fluency. They were supplementing in different problem solving, and that's aligned obviously to the mathematical practice. And then they were finding that they were outsourcing, looking for different materials to help differentiate their instruction for the students in front of them. As a result, students were not provided with an equitable and consistent learning experience across the district. So we talked to some elementary schools, teachers, coaches, principals, and asked the question, what would you like to see in the next math curriculum? And some of the things that people reported out seeing is they really wanted to see lessons that provided the concrete learning experience with hands-on manipulatives, the support for the teachers to be able to implement these manipulatives in the classroom. Some teachers wanted to make sure there were multiple entry points so that all students could come to the table and come access the content. At the same time, they needed opportunities for extension, and for those students that are ready for that next level of math, they wanted strong visuals, they wanted real world connections, and built-in supports for language development, which is a common theme across our entire district. As we know, we have a large number of multilingual learners, and language supports actually help all our students. So it's not just for one. They wanted some clear activators with strong visual, hands-on components. They wanted to make sure there were vocabulary routines built in and discussion protocols. And they wanted a little more time with each topic to ensure that the students were able to access it at the next time that they encountered the same topic, to build in that fluency structure. It didn't advance. I'm sorry. I don't know. Oh, I got it. Okay, sorry. Technology is yeah, okay. Student engagement is very high on the list. That's really important. Students get the opportunity for discourse, for communication, to work together, and to engage in rigorous problem solving. We want to make sure that the students have opportunities to be immersed in authentic problem solving and critical thinking activities, develop these skills. It needs to have lessons connected with vocabulary, multiple opportunities, discourse, and that it includes manipulatives or encourages manipulative use and visuals and ample practice opportunities. So there were some overlying themes that kept coming out: the language routines, the supports for our multilingual students, the hands-on manipulatives, the access to problem solving, and then the different ways of being able to engage all learners in the classroom. So our secondary schools had been working with Reveal, and so they also had some things to say. They had been using, oh, I'm sorry. There we go. I apologize. So why we went with Reveal, one is we notice it does meet the diverse learners in a tiered 1 instruction. I'll talk a little more about those in just a minute. It supports our instructional frameworks and vision of the learner. And again, I'll go into that in a little more detail. And then we know math is ruthlessly cumulative, and Reveal vertically aligns our curriculum for kindergarten through Algebra 2, and this would be so huge for some of our transitions. It is highly rated on Ed Reports, and it is highly rated on Curate. So the secondary schools, they have been using it for the last year in some of the ways that they have been using it in the classroom. They have been using the language routines from Reveal. They bring in, they find they are essential for the student's success, and when they are shifting away from the language as a barrier to a language as a tool of understanding, it is providing more support for our students, and they're finding the students are engaged in higher level discourse. There is a section in the secondary math that's called a math probe, and the probes are often used not only to introduce subjects, but some teachers are using them to review, and they present problems at a very high level. They have been using it for practice. They use the practice, and they can take the practice, and they have been designing whether they are doing all of it or they are sequencing it by level of difficulty. So they're able to scaffold it for the students and actually vary how they scaffold it for students so that they are meeting the needs of their Tier 1 students in a variety of ways. A lot of, as you know, we did our common assessments for math are for secondary are actually on the Reveal platform, and teachers are finding them very accessible as well as their students. They're easy to work with. They are it is a math program, so they are aligned to math question types, and there's over 22 types of questions and formats of questions that can be asked on the platform, and students find it accessible, and they have access to calculators when necessary. They can use features like text-to-speech, and so they are able to access it, so that at the secondary level. And then all the math concepts are being introduced with a real-world context, and the teachers are finding that's a high leverage point because we know oftentimes the question comes up in math, why do I need to know this? So having that real-world application is very important, and it's also been an area that some of our students have had difficulty in the past accessing real-world problems. So they find that the integration of knowledge, they're provided with the foundation to begin with, so they're integrating the math into the context of real world. And then we have been using some of the problems from Reveal, even for as far as engagement, creating opportunities for discourse, creating opportunities for collaboration. So they're taking the problems, which are a high-level problem, and they're also providing those opportunities for the students to access those problems, keep the problem level rigorous, but providing an opportunity for students to work together. So it has been a very positive. So in the reveal for the elementary level, so obviously secondary is going to be a little different from elementary because elementary needs to be developmentally appropriate, as well as secondary needs to be appropriate for a secondary student. So in the reveal elementary, there are, for every lesson, there are actually 3 objectives, not just the content objective, which is the one that aligns to the math standard and is so important, but they actually have a language objective that is attached to every lesson that is formatted in the same way that our district expects, with both form and function, and it aligns to the expectations of what DESE looks for in a well-written language objective. And then this program does have something called a positive math mindset, and it builds a math mindset. And along with that, every lesson contains a social emotional objective. And this is also important because it does actually, a lot of them tie directly to our vision of a learner. So we'll talk about ways of engaging with the communication. It talks about the way that they need to be an active community member. So it actually supports and aligns for that also. Inside the lesson model, the activator for the lesson model does contain the ask for language routines and the ask for number routines, as well as some of the things like notice and wonder. So we're providing an opportunity for all kids to join the discussion right off the bat, because there's that opportunity. The lessons themselves have 2 different ways that the teachers can actually use in order to instruct their students. One is more of an activity-based exploration. One is more of a guided exploration. The benefit of this is the teacher can adjust their teaching and have the supports to adjust their teaching for the students in front of them. And that's day to day. So if they find that for this particular topic, the activity exploration is a better fit, then they have those tools. And if they find for the next topic they want to go to the other way, they have that tool also. Under the practice in assessment, there are multiple opportunities for independent practice. There are multiple opportunities on paper and pencil. I know that's been some of the concern. There is an online component, but that is at the teacher's discretion as far as what they feel is the right fit for their students. And then there's a lot of differentiation. So provided there are differentiation resources that actually function both for review and enrichment, they do actually come with games that the children can play in the classroom. And when I'm talking about games, I'm not referring to online games. I'm talking about games where students learn to take turns, they learn to communicate, they talk about math, and that actually promotes that collaboration and discourse around math in the classroom. They do have some review lessons where it's take another look. There is spiral review built into the program. There are workstations, so a lot of teachers like to run small groups, and then it's what are the students doing if they're not right in front of me, and this curriculum provides options for them that they can actually use. And in addition, they do connect throughout the entire curriculum with STEM, and it's revisited along the way. So it has that science, technology, engineering component with it. And this is always really important to me, the 3 areas of math that have to be looked at and always considered. One is making sense of mathematical concepts. With this program, all teachers would be receiving new updated curriculum, manipulatives that are appropriate for the grade level. So they are developmentally appropriate. It's not one bin and it's going to be the same thing for grades 1 and 2 as it is for grades 6. There's opportunity for fact and procedural fluency and opportunity for problem solving and the real world connection like I've talked about. Oh my, I'm sorry. I don't know where it just went. All right, let's pull back. Okay, I apologize. I'm sorry. Technology, not my first. It's, yeah. So, year at a glance, we acknowledge that it's not a case of we're just handing it to teachers and we expect this is going to be a perfect thing. They need ongoing support. It is so important that the implementation goes well because that is what's best for our students. So just handing teachers something and say, here, have at it, that's really not impactful. So we do have an entire year-long plan of really structured support. As part of this, I am committed to having all the curriculum maps updated for elementary by May 15th. With that, Reveal, the company, will do what's called an onboarding, an overview of the structures of the program and the different components. That would be June 1st through 3rd. The following week, we're looking to do a full day training with each grade level. And during that time, they would have access to the curriculum maps. They would be looking at the instructional frameworks as well as the components of a lesson and looking at how to plan a well-structured lesson and where to get the resources. And then during our November and March PD, we'd be bringing them back at grade level teams to see where they are, to talk about, to not only continue the work that we had begun, but also to problem solve with what issues they may be having. And then in June, kind of that year in review, what worked well, what do they need in order to be more successful, to move forward. And that's a little more detailed layout as far as what is our plan is. And then along with that, there are going to be regular office hours where I will be available to support the teachers, the coaches with any question, or principals, any questions they may have on the implementation of the program and problem solve in real time. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate the in-depth look. I will begin with Member Albrecht. Oh. Sorry about that. I just shut my microphone off so no one could hear me breathing hard. No, I just wanted to say thank you, but I will start with Member Alvarez. Any comments or questions for the administration?
Yeah, I do. Thank you for that report. Those slides were really detailed. I couldn't read them from here, but
Your microphone.
Oh my goodness, I did it what you did. I'm so sorry, I'll start again. Thank you for the presentation. Those slides were really informative. I couldn't read them from over here, but what you had said in correspondence to those slides were very informative, and I understood despite also the technical difficulties with that. I do want to just brush upon some of those emails that we've been receiving. I know we've all been attached to those emails, so I'm just wondering if we can go over a little bit about some of those concerns, starting with the Reveal curriculum. How do you expect the new curriculum's online practice component to impact the elementary guidelines for the use of ST Math?
Administration.
Through the chair. With the ST Math is a supplemental program that there are puzzle requirements. There is research that backs up the fact that this actually does improve math. ST Math is different. in that it's a very conceptual, visualized program, as opposed to what you might think of as online practice. So we will be continuing with ST Math. As far as the Reveal online component, in using those practice, that is to the teacher's discretion. And I'm also going to say that there's an age appropriate amount of time also. So that is at the teacher's discretion. But the ST Math does provide something. It provides so math moves from the concrete to the abstract, and in between is this visualization piece, and ST Math is really important with that, and the research does back up the fact that that is showing improvement, and there is research that can back that up.
Thank you for that. I do 100% trust our team, which then brings us to the next question is, I've heard a lot of our families want to hear more from the middle school teachers who are implementing Reveal already in their classrooms. So I'm wondering if we're able to hear more from them. I know you guys have been able to talk to principals or other building staff around their thoughts about this, and all that data that you collected on that is very useful. And I do think that, but I also would like to respect those who are using the curriculum and hear more from them.
So, through the chair, I will say that I did include some of those quotes that I talked about with the secondary. A number of those were middle school.
Okay.
So our middle schools were represented in those quotes. I spend a lot of time at the secondary level with the secondary teachers, and they also have been having ongoing PD this year to make sure that they are implementing the curriculum. So as the year's gone on, we've seen really some real high leverage instruction that's been happening with the curriculum, especially as they've gotten more familiar with it and more comfortable.
Thank you. I just couldn't read from over here. So in those quotes, did anything, I was going to say, was anything revealed, because we're talking about Reveal Math, right? Was anything revealed in those comments around what the teachers' thoughts are around assessments and what their perspective is on the impact of the assessments that those assessments have on teaching and their learning in the classrooms?
Through the chair. So with the common assessments that we give, there are 7 or 8 during the course of the year. It's actually, the units are broken up at the district curriculum map. There's usually 2 chapters or modules within a unit. And so actually, if they are using the district common assessments, they're actually using less summative and more formative. So they're spending more time on some of the formative tasks and looking at the day-to-day, and less time on just giving big tests. The tests are all standards aligned, so that they do receive the data after the fact. What their students are able to do according to the standards, so that they can make instructional decisions about what is best for their students as far as next. What do they need to review? So the same things, the same decisions that good math teachers should be making regularly anyway, they are making with the program. The nice thing is that they also receive district data, so they can also see there's conversations about, your students did better on this. How did you do that? And so that's brought the district together in a conversation way that we haven't been able to have.
Interesting. I like that. Collaboration is always a thing, especially when you need to use that information, compare it, and see how you can fill those gaps in. Do you have, through the administration, through the chair to the administration, do you happen to know if these assessments are able to be printed on paper, or is it strictly on the computer? I did hear a couple of your answers, but I just would like for the public to
Through the chair.
see that detail.
So there aren't common assessments until they get to third grade, first off. So this is not kindergarten 1 and 2. They do start in third grade, and we also know that high stakes state testing also starts in third grade. So it gives the students regular exposure, because those state tests are online also. So it does give them exposure along the way on how to manipulate the tools. So what we're really testing is the math, not the ability to navigate the computer. The common assessments in grade 3 are already happening. They're just happening on a different platform. So they are already online. Can these tests be printed? Yes, they can, but they do lose that ability to necessarily get that practice with some of the tech tools and some of the things that are happening. And I encourage all teachers who give common assessments to have the students do the work on paper and turn that in also, because the only thing that the computer always necessarily checks is whether it's right or wrong. But in math, it's the process that truly shows the understanding of the students. So even if they are just putting the answer in the technology, they are doing all the work out on paper and pencil, because that is the best way to show their understanding and process.
I'm very familiar with that technique of having them do it on the computer and writing everything out on paper. I am a MCAS proctor for our classrooms, so seeing how they're able to hop from paper. Some of them don't even use the paper, to be honest, but some of them only want to use the paper and ask for more. So it really just depends on that child and their ability to understand, and also their attention span, and being able to sit down and be in front of a screen and take those assessments. Because, I feel like this is a personal opinion, but kids, younger kids specifically, get really distracted with screen time. But I'm happy to hear that this starts at grade 3, just like MCAS does. And I know, and this is just another thing that also came up, the last thing is, I know this is a time sensitive item because budget season's here, but I am wondering if we were to renew our curriculum, have you received feedback on that? As in, I'll ask this, what is one pro and one con for keeping what we have now or versus not keeping it?
Administration.
Through the chair. So honestly, it would be easier to just keep the program we have. Is it in the best interest of our students would be a good question. I'm also going to say that, you mentioned the budget. It is expensive to renew for another year. So is it worth, and that's just basically for workbooks. That's not for the manipulatives, it's not for the other things. So then is it worth just putting money into something that we actually have already acknowledged is not meeting the needs of our students and our teachers are supplementing? So is that a good use of budget funds, rather than if we're able to provide a curriculum for them that actually does what they are asking for and that has the ML supports embedded and it has the differentiation? That would be where I stand on the fact that I am willing to put in the extra work because and it is extra work. You know, and I think, and I am willing to put in the extra work because I feel so strongly that this will benefit our students.
Thank you for that. I felt that passion behind your words, which makes me comfortable in knowing that, because you are a curriculum specialist and this is everything that's under your title. So I do appreciate your feedback on that. If you're allowed to say, how much would it be to renew it? I know that it's expensive and we're removing a lot of the benefits that are being brought through our new curriculum, but that would be interesting to know.
Dr. Morris?
Through the chair, I can get back to you on that, but it is close to $1 million for 1 year.
My goodness. Yeah. Okay. And that will be my questions. Everything else is just more conversation on it, but I did really enjoy your informative presentation on this. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Chairwoman Benenda?
I think it's great. After you have your speak, I think we should really vote to purchase this program. I know it goes back to the large committee, but for people that remember a little bit of history in the Worcester Public School, we had everyday math, and everyday math was in the elementary school, and we never moved it up into the high school. So in come the kids, right, in 9th grade, and they're drawing all these ladders, and we couldn't help them. None of us in the high school, including the math teachers, knew how to do that work. So it was very difficult to help students when you don't have a consistent program going from the elementary to the middle to the high school. So just knowing that experience, how frustrating it was for the students, it was also very frustrating for the parents because they felt like they couldn't help their students do the work, and the teachers. So I think it is a program that we're familiar with. It's updated, right? And it's going to be, is it K through 12 on that?
Administration.
Through the chair. It is K through Algebra 2.
Okay.
And Algebra 2 is
Junior.
Junior,
Or
sophomore, junior. There are some students that take it as senior. It is the graduation requirement. As far as it's the last course that actually has to, they have to pass for graduation requirement.
Yeah, great. And, I mean, there are some students that, if they take algebra in 8th grade,
They
then they'll
are
take
taking
geometry
algebra.
and algebra 2 together.
Yes.
As freshmen, they can do that, right?
So we do have obviously some other math courses that have been added to supplement. For instance, there is a new AP pre-calc. So
Yes.
that wouldn't have the same textbook. So we have things for those accelerated students. So, and they wouldn't be part of this program because it has its own College Board curriculum and things like that.
Yeah, and it was great that 2 years ago, College Board decided that they would give that AP credit to all pre-cal students, which in the past they didn't do. That was a smart idea for both students and for College Board to do that. So, well, thank you for your presentation. I think you did a great job. Nice visuals. And I think you did very well address the questions that we've got from people. And so I'll pass it on to you, but I do have a motion to accept this curriculum.
Thank you very much. Don't have much more to add. I think, as my colleague just mentioned, you did answer a lot of the questions that we had, that the public had. Again, I appreciate those folks that emailed us and asked us, some of the questions that, we also had, but I appreciate you going right down the list with everything. The presentation was perfect, the way it was presented to us, so we could break it down even further. I do appreciate the professional development aspect of that, because I think it's so important to make we get this done right. Right, and I know it's a small truncated time to get this going, but I truly think that having that continuity from the elementary school to the secondary is going to be very helpful. So we're not starting the year off in 7th grade having to teach a whole new program versus getting right into the nuts and bolts of things. So I think that in that aspect, I think it's a good decision to adopt this reveal. Just a quick question. Really was, and it's just because of the fact that I always want to give fair shake to everything. So were there other curricula considered while doing this? And if so, what were they and why did you go this route?
Or to the,
To me, it's all right.
So we did look at extending Envision.
Yep.
And we did meet with them to see, you know, if they had updates coming, what that would look like. So we did actually meet with Envision. Even at one point early on, looked at would that be the right curriculum to go K to 12, and looking at it, I didn't think it was really a good fit for the secondary. I have taught both elementary and secondary, so kind of when I look at the things, I do look at that piece. We also explored IM, and which is illustrative math. And obviously we looked at Reveal. Very much forefront is in our minds are the things that as a district we have been looking to provide, and that's our ML support, our math language routines, opportunities for collaboration, opportunities for discourse, the real world application. So we have been consistently looking from that. The other curriculums also had it. We also considered what the implementation of some of these programs would look like. What is the time requirement? Because we do actually have a certain schedule at the secondary level and actually a certain schedule at the elementary level also. So the program has to be able to be implemented in the time frame that people have for math instruction. So when we looked at all those different things, Reveal did come out as being the best fit for Worcester.
Thank you. And again, I appreciate the diligence on the behalf of the administration to really dig in deep and try to find the correct application for this for the educators and students alike, right? I think it's important to give the educators their honors as well. I mean, they're teaching the class.
Right.
So it's not like this is a robot that's going to take over and teach. They have to do all the work, but to keep them in mind and asking them for their opinions and their thoughts on the program is very important. So we have good feedback. So again, I appreciate the presentation, and Member Benenda has made a motion to approve. Roll call.
Member Alvarez?
No.
Member Benenda?
Yes.